What people don't realize is that Aladdin was really a triple threat. Virgin, us at Virgin, we were making the game. Disney, we had all the Disney animators and the Disney license, so they were, very well vested in the game. But then Sega, they loved it so much that they wanted to help distribute the game with us as well. So it was really like 3 huge powerhouses all working on one game.
We sort of built this cool team who really cared about animation, and we made a game called Cool Spot for 7-Up.
I was part of Dave Perry's team, and we were doing the Genesis SKUs of games at the time. So we had done Global Gladiators, and then we did Cool Spot, and then we started working on Jungle Book, which that was one of my favorite Disney movies of all time, so I was really excited to be doing that.
So if you're from Disney and you saw how lovingly we were making Jungle Book, I think that was a surprise to them. They probably looked at that and went, okay, these are the guys.
I was doing a bunch of Mowgli animation and monkeys, and we were just sort of getting into it. And then the Aladdin thing came in out of the blue. And so our team, Dave Perry and myself and our group, got pulled over to Aladdin.
They already had started Aladdin with another developer, but decided to give it to us.
Basically, my understanding was Disney came to Martin Alper, then president of Virgin, and says, hey, we've got this product, and the current developer is sort of failing. They brought us in, I think it was almost like 20 people maybe, you include all the designers, and basically said, go, okay, what do we need to do?
You see how the world works, it's kind of strange. You can't quite just jump to say, well, we'll just do Aladdin. You have to sort of weave your way to it. You've got proof you can do cell animation in a video game. You've got artists that clearly can do very high quality Disney animation. And then music, our music was going to win awards again. We're on a roll at that point. Aladdin was just this flow of each game we did sort of gained more and more energy and attention on our team. We didn't have much time to do Aladdin. We did it in about 99 days. It was one of the fastest game developments ever.
We had to have it done and finished by the time Aladdin came out on video that Christmas, because they were going to put in a flyer, remember? They were going to put in a flyer in like 10 million Aladdin VHS tapes saying, and buy the video game. So we had this massive deadline.
We just pounded out a design document in a couple days. Everybody was really excited because we were getting to do a Disney Aladdin game.
It was great because everyone was united by desire to work with Disney, work with this company that's pushing new boundaries.
I mean, our goal really was to do justice to the movie, which was a huge hit at the time.
We were going to take hand-drawn animation, scan them in, and then color them in, tidy them up, so you could actually be playing an interactive cartoon.
They were doing hand-drawn pencil and paper animation that they had experimented with digitizing and getting into the computer and then playing on a Genesis. It was exactly the kind of thing Disney was looking for at the time.
They had this great engine and had yet to put a really big license to it. And so it was like the big license meeting the perfect engine at the right time for this little brief window.
Just the pipeline for the animation was a pretty major hurdle. I was shuttling back and forth between Irvine and Florida, where Disney was at the time. I was still pretty green, and they sent me down to Florida to try and teach these featured superstar animators how to do video game animation. And I was like, they should be teaching me how to do animation. We burned a lot of time in the beginning figuring out how to make it look the way it was supposed to look.
I think as an artist, you always look at your work with a critical eye and you're never totally happy with it.
There were a lot of people, especially at Virgin, that were losing confidence in our ability to pull it off. And so it wasn't until the stuff started coming in and looking good and then started coming in fast enough that it was clear it was going to get done that everybody kind of relaxed a little bit.
We'd all design games and been around games, so we just started adding our own ideas, and Dave would just incorporate them.
In the lamp level that you did, was that in the movie?
No, that wasn't. That was one that was totally not in the movie.
I mean, the parts. You recognize the parts in it, maybe from some of the more abstract moments in the movie.
Yeah, we got the graphics were from the movie, but the actual, Aladdin's actually inside the lamp kind of thing, and he's jumping around on the genie's body, which really I don't think there was anything like that. Disney just accepted it that's necessary to make changes to make some gameplay.
But it looked like it belonged totally.
It did, yes.
because you use lots of actual genie parts, right? You have the flicking finger, you bounced off.
And there was the big letters. I think at one point there was like big letter, like Roman numerals on columns of that. I think that was also.
So the imagery looked very familiar.
It was all from the game, all from the movie. Yeah.
I always feel, I just wish we could have more time.
I like to fix the camera. Yeah, the camera's so jerky. Like, we didn't realize it at the time because Dave hadn't smoothed out to the camera as the engine yet. So now when I look back at Aladdin, you jump, the camera's going like this.
We did more professional testing than we'd probably ever done. It meant that we were running these focus tests. We were watching through glass and watching kids play, and we would argue it's too easy or it's too hard, and then you would see the kids having a really, really hard time, and that settled all the arguments. Who cares what your opinion is? We're watching a bunch of kids suffer right now. I don't care if you think it's easy or not. These kids are suffering. Please fix it. I had a special screen that I used for testing the game that we would use on the team. You type in a code and my face would appear. Yeah. And it was just what I used to sort of really, really hack the game and play and test and jump wherever I wanted. It turned out this actually really helped for my career because, you know, people start to recognize you from the game.
The code gets out.
Because people find our cheat codes, they find how we've been making the game.
Well, actually, I would leak them to the press, actually.
Because the game was moving so fast, everyone was excited every day by what they were seeing. It was feeling good, it was looking awesome, the animation was coming in.
I don't think we realized it at the time, but the fact that that group of people got along as well as they did under the amount of pressure that they were under and performed their jobs without killing each other is pretty amazing. It was actually a really, really good group of people. And I can tell you, the group of people that I worked with down in Florida, that's like one of the best groups of people I ever worked with.
For us, I think it was like a brotherhood. We were all passionate, we were all young people, none of us were really married or had kids, so it was our whole life, and we were so passionate about making the best stuff possible. And when you have 7, 8 people all like that in a room together, it's pretty amazing, pretty magical.
I think what's important on a team is that you respect the talent of the other people.
Totally.
Because what occurs when that happens, when an artist draws something and you're like, oh my God, it looks really good. It actually creates this, it's not just respect, but I don't know, somehow it makes you feel really good about the people you're with. And if anything, I would define it as you feel lucky to be there. You feel lucky that you're surrounded with this group of people, and then they look around and they feel the same thing, and I think ultimately you end up with this very tight team. Because of that, you know, everyone was just delivering. That really made this whole thing work well.
Just remember all the people. I think it's the people that really hit me, and just the craziness of, I still work in the video game industry now, and it's very sane, but back then it was just the Wild West.
Everything was unusual, especially when they brought so many Brits over. They put us all in the same apartment complex.
Oh, that's right.
So it was like an oasis, right? And you just get pizza and everyone come over and eat. We do hang out at each other's places.
In terms of how well we got along, or how, you know, the quality of that team, we went on to do other projects together and stuck together. We definitely had a good...
Well, you and I, we've been working together ever since, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
For Virgin as a company, they became a much bigger company, and they had a lot more opportunities, a lot bigger opportunities after Aladdin, because they showed what they could do. You know, they got the Lion King game, and they got some other games, and they were able to bring in more people and more talented people and do bigger projects. And I think Aladdin opened the door for them.
After Aladdin, you could feel the company growing.
This was the very first time ever where somebody could legitimately play an interactive cartoon. It was hand-drawn art. It was an interactive cartoon.
Our goal really was to do justice to the movie, which was a huge hit at the time.
We could use everything that's good about the movie.
Yes.
There was no restrictions. Allow us to work directly with the movie studio rather than through a game publisher.
The biggest challenge was just being true to the art style and keeping everything on model and making sure that it was up to the standards that we all knew to be Disney standards.
They hired Disney Feature Animation to do the hand-drawn animation.
Our team was incredibly excited about that, because to have a team full of animators that work with pencils, to have them work on a Disney project at this level was incredible. But what we didn't understand was they would actually give us access to the people who made Aladdin, the directors, the animators in Florida, for example. That changed everything. Our lead animator, Mike Dietz, ended up going to Florida and working with the Disney animators.
As an animator, getting to deal with Disney feature animation, getting to fly down there, work in the Disney animation studios with like some of the greatest animators on the planet and learn from them and just be around them. Like they set me up with like a desk in the Disney animation studio and I'm sitting there drawing and I'm going, what is going on here? It was like a dream come true.
Their stuff was great and it was really inspirational, and we learned a lot about color and how they used it.
Because a lot of times some of the images can be quite simple, but they work, they're balanced, they're doing things you're not really seeing, you know, but they're communicating to you, and they're just very, very talented. You can tell you're dealing with very, very talented artists, so it's nervous.
It was pretty unfair for the rest of the industry, right? It's like, you know, if you're an animator and we've got Disney feature animation on our team.
Well, so the way we worked was, because animation is so expensive and it's a multi-step process, the first thing you do in animation is you do a pencil test, which is just a rough drawing. And then normally if you're making a film, you would watch the pencil test of the film and go, oh, we want to make these changes to the animation and make these revisions and add this here and take this out here. And then when you're happy with it, then you do a cleaned up version of the drawing. And then you look at that, and then you ink it, and then you paint it and color it and finish it. That's a very expensive process, and you wouldn't want to go through that process on something that you're not sure is going to be in the game. So what we had developed a little bit on Jungle Book, but it really started on Aladdin, was to take those pencil test drawings that we were getting from Disney that were not finished, and we would digitize those and flood fill them white, and then put them in as sprites in the game. And then we could test it. We could play test it, see what was working, see if the mechanic was working at all, but also see if the animation itself was working. And then, when it was, only then we would move on to the final.
What we would do, we would take these, you know, images from Disney, and then I think I would just paint it without thinking too much about the tiles and breaking it down. So I'd paint the bigger shapes, and then after that I would try and figure out, now how do I make this into a tile set, and how do I make it efficient so we can actually fit it in the memory of the game.
And then once you got it to that, then you'd have to go in and clean it up, and then sometimes it was still kind of crunchy, and then there was a whole process of going in and touching up the stuff that wasn't looking real great. That was just a frame-by-frame manual process. That was really difficult because you had to have someone who had a sensitivity towards both animation and pixel art so that they could touch up what was there without like drawing over it and losing the sub-pixel movement. For me personally, the biggest challenge was educating the feature film animators who were used to animating at 24 frames per second and having as many frames as they needed to and like no restrictions. Teaching them what the restrictions were of animating for a video game and some of the techniques that we used to use to get around those limitations, and then try and like get their superpowers as amazing animators to execute these techniques that we had developed to get the best out of the limited resources we have and make the animation feel like it was Disney feature quality animation, even though it was far less frames and, you know, just crunchy resolutions. It was a process, and it was a process just figuring out what that pipeline was, and then once we knew what the pipeline was, like to actually just run all that animation through that was time-consuming and expensive.
What's so impressive is the fact that with the limited palette that was on the Genesis, we were still able, I felt, to sort of faithfully reproduce what the animated movie had, the colors and the look and the feel of the artwork. And then that came down to the fact that we did have really good source reference material from Disney. We had big printed out frames of the movie right the way through the movie, so we had a lot of reference, which was something quite unique. Up to that point, we didn't have a lot of reference for games.
When you looked at games back then, everything looked kind of angular. You know, platforms and girders and crates. And so people would have a tendency to draw in squares or along that line. And with Aladdin, seeing those backgrounds, I think we were the first to really break that. We created more large shapes of buildings. You couldn't see the tiles, it wasn't so obvious. We were really trying to capture the spirit. That was tricky, that was challenging. And sometimes it's funny, you go back and you see stuff, and I know even my kids will be looking at Aladdin and they go, "Did you do that, Dad? Did you do that?" And you can't remember. I can't remember. Like, that's how closely everyone managed to get their styles. So I'd look at something and go, "Oh, yeah, I think I did that, but Steve could have done that, or Lynn could have done that."
Yeah,
I'm
that's
actually
right.
not sure.
I think, yeah.
I've got a memory that I could have done it.
I remember certain things I did, but I don't remember everything.
Back then, it was like, what? How are they doing this? The animation was the smoothest the industry had ever seen.
You knew, hey, this is a very special game we're working on.
And the amazing thing is, if you put in Aladdin today and you play it, it holds up. Now, how many video games 25 years later can you say graphically can hold up and you can still find it interesting graphically? And that's why I knew it was going to be a big hit, because it looked like nothing. I couldn't wait for people to see this. Sometimes you just know.
We, as a team, weren't too used to a design document. It's not that we don't want one, it's that we believed very strongly in just playing something and feeling if the design document said Aladdin jumps half his body height, that might be helpful, but does that feel good? And so we would go, no, it doesn't feel right.
There were elements of the design document, if I went back and looked at it, that I think made it in the game. A large percentage didn't, because it just evolved.
And so everything was tuned based upon what we just thought felt right. And so then the level starts getting laid out based on the limitations of the device. So whatever the design said, we're going to have some repetition of things because that's just how the platforms work. The game ended up building itself based upon what felt good or what fit and we could squeeze into the device.
We were designing on the fly and Disney was approving it or not approving it or giving input. So it was an organic process.
The biggest challenge to program a game like Aladdin is actually to get Aladdin, the character, to fit into the console when you have potentially thousands of frames. How could you ever do that? The way a video game console worked back then is you would draw a box around that character and that whole thing would get stored. So Aladdin was actually the worst case designed character ever because it's a person with a big long sword. And when you hold out the sword, it makes a box like this big because you got Aladdin and the sword doing this. And so it caused us really to think very hard, how could you possibly crunch all these big giant characters into the game?
The real breakthrough was Dave's sprite system, which could take non-square characters and break it down into little parts.
My tools engineer, Andy Astor, he made a tool for us that basically just did the most amazing job of cutting out all the bits that weren't necessary and also looking for any little bits that were the same. So if Aladdin's ear didn't move between two frames, it would actually save that part and we'd reuse the ear from previously. And so there was this sort of massively clever compression going on.
And no one had really done that before, so we could have big stretchy frames of animation.
Making it possible to have larger shapes that could change shape on the screen rather than just saying, hey, this is like a 4x4 sprite.
I personally spent a lot of time early on in the project working with Dave to figure out how we were going to get these drawings down to these sprites with giant pixels in them and have it still have that sub-pixel movement and still look like the animation.
I think I remember seeing the very early, Aladdin run cycle and that up on Dave's machine, and it was just in black and white pencil still, and seeing you could just see it was just so fluid. We'd never seen anything quite like this before.
Eventually, we got to the point where it worked.
Games were very horizontal and vertical before, and we had lots of slopes and angles.
Yeah, it didn't require straight lines. Well, you actually had a tile set that would actually build these little lines and would have different angles of these tiles, which would be the thing that the character would walk along. And so we could build different angles, make them go up, and
you could make some one way as well, so you could like, you know, you walk on it, but you could jump back up through it.
Yes, this was my method. Is like I would take some element of the game, you know, and I just draw that on my monitor. And then we had to make tiles that were 8 by 8s. And then you could build those into larger tiles that were 2 of those tiles in each direction. That's right, isn't it? Yeah. So that would be a 16 by 16 tile. And from there, they were then used to build the actual levels themselves.
When I would look at some of the art that was going to be based on the level art, I would look at whatever I thought was the highlight piece, you know, and I go, okay, I'm just going to start right there, and I'm going to burn a bunch of tiles, like a third of my tile set, to get that one piece looking great, and then try and stretch out.
Yeah, and then you try and use bits of that one piece.
But I wanted to make sure I had
a
strong center piece to the level that you go, oh, that looks just like the movie.
It was also interesting in Aladdin, there's one thing I talk about quite often, is how people play video games, they just want to be entertained. And so we worried a lot about the story of Aladdin. Is it going to be important that we tell the story? And in reality, the kids already know the story, but so there's a whole argument, do we really have to tell the story? And we, of course, agreed in the end, yes, we have to tell the Aladdin story. So we had this scrolling once upon a time thing. We tested it with the kids, and it was so funny because we're watching a room full of kids, and all you can see is the thumbs going,
click, click,
play the game,
we don't
play
care,
the game.
we don't care.
I don't want to read any of this.
Yeah, but we just spent a week making this beautiful thing.
There was one girl in the room who sat and read all this stuff, and we pulled her out and said, why did you read all this, you know, why did you read the story? And she goes, because I thought it would say something important and it didn't, and I'm really annoyed. So
it's just the story.
So it's a very interesting point, because there's a discussion on whether video games should be, you know, more about stories and more about gameplay. I think it was pretty clear at that point in the industry, it was all about the gameplay. Sound is way more important than most teams are ever willing to admit.
This is one thing that Dave really fought for. Audio actually took up the most space of these cartridges. And so if you wanted more memory on your cartridge, oh, well, that's $3 more per cartridge. And so they never gave music guys anything. But what Dave would do is he would say to me, look, Tommy, pretend you didn't have any like restrictions. What could you get the Sega Genesis to sound like? So me and Dave, I mean, we used priority. We were doing things that no one had ever done before. And then Dave, again, to his credit, he would take that to the president of the company, Martin, and say, hey, look, guys, if you spent that extra $3 or $4, look what we could get this to sound like. Disney gave me all of these scores, these massive like conductor scores and sheet music. This is a score written for the movie that had maybe 72 players. Now I only had 6 voices, 6 monophonic voices in the Genesis, and so it was very difficult to take these big scores and kind of putting them like this. So I had to go out and hire a dude, remember his name was Donald Griffin, to take all these massive scores, and then I would get back like a MIDI file that had everything broken down, and I would have to then go in that MIDI file and start hacking and doing all my little tricks that I would kind of perfected in the Genesis over the years. The sound chip in the Sega Genesis it's called FM synthesis. It's a synthesizer from like the 80s. It was actually a Yamaha chip that they used in the DX7. So it was this really kind of punchy, synthy, had lots of beefy low-end kind of stuff. For an orchestral score like Aladdin, a challenge for me was, okay, I might be able to write a tune, or I'd get that MIDI file of everything arranged, but now I got to get this thing to sound like an oboe. Oh my God, how do I get a wow to sound like an oboe? So I would sit there for like literally days at a time, days, to come up and tweak all of the different things within the chip to get it to sound as close to an oboe as I possibly could.
the time, everything sounded very digital in the game industry. You would think of a note as being off or on. And, it's on or off. He would go in there and hand edit each strike, say for on a drum, to be just a little different.
Just a little off.
Just a little different, just so it sounded softer and real.
The easy thing to do would just be to quantize everything, so it was exactly on the beat, but it didn't have human feel. And so the only way to get that human feel was to go in and literally tweak every single number and listen and tweak again.
I definitely appreciated the work that was getting done, there's no question. Sometimes he would come in, it would blow me away. I'd be like, how are you doing this? Okay, that sounds like a real electric guitar. And he's like, it is.
I think at the time there was hit and misses with movie tie-in games. Most of them weren't very good.
Yeah, I once had a licensing meeting in Hollywood, and I was told to wait and to talk to this licensing person, and I was sitting there with literally coffee cups and things like that. And I remember going, "You think video games are a coffee cup, don't you? Like you're licensing another coffee cup deal."
But Aladdin was the first game where we had full access to the creatives at Disney. This was a milestone. I think it proved to the industry, if you actually put these video game people in a room with the big, talented Hollywood people,
they can work together.
They can work together and make something amazing.
It was so much better than what was expected. Whoa, this game's really good.
Honestly, I think Aladdin was just at that sort of in a sweet spot where Hollywood was really starting to take this stuff more seriously. So that was kind of one of those moments when things changed. At the time, when you made a video game, you would get some magazine adverts. They'd run some adverts, and that was pretty much all you get. And we once got invited to a press launch for Aladdin in Chicago at CES.
We were revealing Aladdin at CES, and at the last minute, I decided not to go because I felt like I had too much work to do just to get the game finished. And so I didn't go.
I arrived, and the doors open. And there's the entire floor is the cast of Aladdin, like all in costumes and people in dancing and all the rest of it, getting ready. And I'm like, oh my God, what is going on here? And I go down and I go into this giant room. Remember
Katzenberg,
Shinobu, the head of Sega of Japan, was there. Katzenberg was on stage.
Jeffrey Katzenberg.
Richard Branson was there.
At the time, Jeffrey Katzenberg was the president of Disney. But yeah, Richard Branson was there, and Tom Kalinske, president of Sega.
All the press.
This was it. This is a big deal.
It was a weird moment because I'd made a lot of games that had, that had good brands and things like that, but I'd never seen what happens when you have that level of celebrity lean in, and having Disney, of course, as well.
I remember everybody coming back from CES, and Aladdin had won like Game of the Show, and like there was all these accolades. And I remember Doc saying he had never been so proud to wear a company shirt than he was at that show, walking around with the Virgin shirt and showing Aladdin. So there was like all these accolades and this excitement about the game.
It was a really amazing point certainly in my career, because I could feel video games were about to become big. Like this wasn't the way it had been for the last 10 or 15 years. This was next level stuff.
Come on! It was all happening, and there was just a huge excitement about Disney at the time. I remember.
They could do no wrong.
Yeah,
right,
it was just everyone was excited about Disney movies.
Jeffrey Katzenberg once called me to ask about working on The Lion King, and it was very difficult to say no, we're not going to do it.
Well, we wanted Lion King
so
badly.
King. Oh yes.
Yeah, because we got to see a special preview of the movie. Flown out to Vegas. Roy Disney was there. Katzenberg was there. It was a big production, and we were so nervous. And the movie came out, and I remember Doug was sitting in front of me, and I could see tears rolling down his cheek.
Yeah, it was so good.
So it was very emotional.
I regret that to some extent, because I think we could have done just an astounding job. The people that did handle it were excellent.
Westwood,
you know,
it's
Westwood.
amazing, yeah.
So they did fine. There was no problem. They got a great game. I would have enjoyed that experience of getting even closer to Disney and seeing where this would have gone.
I want to do Frozen. From a musical standpoint.
Having a daughter, I would love to do Frozen. That would have been really
Imagine
good.
all the ice effects and stuff we could do. Fantasia would have been to work in that world with amazing music and the sorcerer Mickey on the mountaintop and conducting the thing.
We felt pretty proud of what we had achieved. It was a good looking game. It was fun to play. So I expected it to be successful, but I think it was more successful than any of us could imagine. We just tried to meet the quality standard of the movie as much as we could on that, 16-bit Genesis, just to try and get as much of what the movie was and the imagery, follow it as close as possible.
It was a perfect little storm of all of those disciplines: design, production, animation, art, even marketing. It was the right property at the right time.
I think it's just the visual look and the quality of the game. It set a new standard. It really was a new benchmark, and the animation.
The balance between the gameplay with the look, it all was in harmony. Nothing seemed out of place. The music was great.
Oh yeah, the music was
everything's
really
at
good,
equal bar,
It was so fun, and to see the final product and get it out, and to see the reception of it was really exciting.
Yeah. You have been specially selected from among thousands of players to receive some inside information on the hottest video game of the holiday season. Capcom has brought a blockbuster movie to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Disney's Aladdin. That's right, Disney's smash hit movie is now a Capcom video game for your Super Nintendo Entertainment System. And because Capcom has only sent this tape to you and a few others, we're counting on you to show your friends and spread the word. Just think. Now not only can you watch Aladdin, you can be Aladdin. If I had a genie and 3 wishes, I'd wish we could get a sneak preview of the game. Wow, the colors and graphics are really cool. I wish we had someone to tell us about it.
Your second wish is Capcom's command. Yes, all your favorite characters from Disney's Aladdin are here in this action-packed adventure direct from the streets of Agrabah. Aladdin, Abu, Jasmine, Jafar, the magic carpet, and of course, the big blue guy in the size 3 lamp. Genie of the Lamp. Capcom allows you to enter a whole new world of danger and enchantment in a game that follows the movie storyline and lets you live the adventure. As Aladdin, you will run, jump, swing, climb until you triumph over the evil Jafar and win the heart of Princess Jasmine. Oh, but not so fast. You have 7 heart-pounding levels of gameplay to master before you're through. After you've escaped your enemies in the marketplace and been freed from the palace dungeon, search the perilous Cave of Wonders for the magical lamp. Look out! The cave is turning to lava. There's no time to lose. Climb inside the genie's lamp for a walk on the wacky side. Uh-oh, Abu has stumbled into an ancient pyramid infested by ghoulish grave robbers who prey upon unwary intruders. Quickly, you must find Abu before they do. And you thought the ends of the earth were chilling. Here in Jafar's Palace of Doom, danger lurks behind every corner, and fear rules supreme. You must fight your way through it to defeat Jafar and save Princess Jasmine. In the bonus round, you and Princess Jasmine can fly on the magic carpet to collect special treasures.
Is this game incredible or what? And not only has super graphics, but great background music as well. You'll hear 2 of the movie's greatest hits by Academy Award-winning composer Alan Menken. Fantastic tunes like Never Had a Friend Like Me and A Whole New World. I'm telling you, this game has it all. Super graphics, great Disney characters, exciting action, 7 levels of play, hit songs from the movie. You couldn't wish for anything more. Except maybe a drink to go with this popcorn so I could get out of this line. You're spoiling me, you know that. Disney's Aladdin is one addition to your video game library you just gotta have. In fact, I wish I had that game right now. Dear James, sorry pal, your wishes are up. Watch for Capcom's latest hit, Disney's Aladdin, coming soon to a store near you. I cannot believe I wasted my last wish on this. Oh well, it looks like we've all got something to look forward to.
Don't miss the chance to capture the power of the lamp on your very own Super NES system. Get Disney's Aladdin and live the magic and mystery of this classic action-adventure. Disney's Aladdin. Quality entertainment software flying to your Super Nintendo Entertainment System from Capcom.